Welcome everybody to our bi-weekly digital services forum. Today we're going to talk about native mobile as a ServiceNow system of engagement. And I'll kind of show you how we're weaving that into our bigger discussions as we go forward. All right, before we start, we always go through and talk about the digital services forum, what it's there for, what it is, and why we started it a little bit. So if today's your first time, if you could just drop your name in chat and where you're from, we'll be sure to get back to you, and the others on the group can welcome you as well. We do have this main link on the bottom, which gives you connectivity to everything that we have on the forum. So sometimes you'll see people that are doing demos on our system. So we have a link to a shared instance you can demo from. All these videos we always put up on YouTube afterwards. So we have a playlist of our last 2 years of calls that you can get to on YouTube. And then we'll also have a home where we put stuff on the community. So this is other stuff we're sharing, things like white papers and videos that got shared by our presenters. We'll make sure it goes up there. So if our presenters today have some information, we'll be sure to put it up there with the link with the video. So the goal of the group is to help people lead their digital transformations. And so everybody on the call, most of the people are using the ServiceNow platform to run through their digital transformation. And that's what we're really trying to enable the members to do. And the way we do that is through sharing. So if you come on and you did something really cool, or if you did something that you struggled with a bit, we want to be sure to surface that to everybody else on the call so that they can learn more about it. Sort of like we're doing today. We're going to have somebody that's talked about from the customer front that actually used mobile, and then talk about a little bit about the process about how they got there. It's hosted by the enterprise architecture team. And these are, most of the time, the way we're getting information out through the forum is through these bi-weekly hour-long calls. So there's some other interactions we have, like special events would be a workshop. And we did a workshop on CSDM a couple years ago. We had about 60 people. We broke out into groups and we all did our own design and then brought them back to the main group. And we also did a couple knowledge events. So those are some of the things that would fall into that special event category. All right, so our agenda for today is we're going to go in. I'll just build this out. I'm going to talk a little bit about the public architecture, because I know a lot of people that listen to these calls are using ServiceNow internally. So they're using it for IT. So I want to talk a little bit about the concerns once you start saying, okay, now we're going to put something up for our customers, or in this case, our citizens or our students. And then we'll have Santa Monica come in. Jeremy's going to talk to us a bit about how Santa Monica is using mobile to serve their citizens. Then we'll have Todd come in, talk a little bit about mobile and how it's different engaging the mobile teams than the regular teams you might talk to on ServiceNow. And then Jim's going to tell us, we're going to spend most of the time on Jim telling us about the blocks to kind of put it all together. And then at the end, we'll open it up for kind of plans on mobile, whether it's mobile that you're using for your employees, mobile you're using for your agents, or mobile that you're using externally, and just see what everybody's plans are around mobile. All right, so a little bit about the architecture. When we get brought in, there's many times we get brought in, and in fact, probably like 98% of the time, where they've been using ServiceNow for IT for a long time. And now all of a sudden there's this external project and we're going to start using it externally for our customers. And there's a lot of concerns that come up when we're taking this thing that is seen a lot of times as a tool for IT, and we're taking it now and we're putting it out in this space where it's our main interface to our customers. So these are some of the things that come up. Content management, not really big when you're doing an internal portal. You know, it might be a little bit of a concern, but when you're external, CMS systems are a really big deal. Web hosting is another thing, right? A lot of people don't think of ServiceNow as being their customer-facing website. So a lot of times we have to explain that we know you only have 200 to 500 users on a day because it's the internal system. What's it going to look like when we have 10,000 or 50,000 customers on a day? So all these things come up as big concerns that you have to have conversations about before people will make that decision to move. And a lot of times in the seats that you're in as owners of the platform or owners of the different parts of ServiceNow, you have to have these conversations. So things like financial gateways, social media, and mobile. I have these in blue because these are where we develop a partner network. And today we're going to talk about mobile, and specifically public-facing mobile, and how that fits into the fold. And we're going to talk a little bit about an actual engagement where we said we need to have mobile in order to do our public-facing services. We need to offer those services on mobile. And so as the architects, this is, and the service owners, this is what you have to be prepared, these conversations in each of these blocks. So we can help you with that in architecture. But today I'm going to hand it over to Jeremy to talk a little bit about how they did mobile in Santa Monica and how they came in and actually approached this when they said we need mobile with CSM together. So Jeremy, I don't know if you want to screen share, or I think you just take it from me, right?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks so much, John.
Thanks.
Let me just share my screen with everybody. So I'll dive into the numbers in a little bit and kind of go over what we're seeing specifically related to mobile, but just kind of wanted to start with a little bit of background on where we came from as a city and sort of the time in which we started engaging on the mobile. So for us, as John mentioned, ServiceNow has always been an internal resource, right? It's always been an internal IT resource for us, handling tickets, helping all of our colleagues and ordering computers or whatever it may be. And what we recognized really at the onset of the pandemic was there was a huge gap in our service delivery and our ability to provide services to the community because City Hall was closed. A lot of our staff weren't available and things like that. And so we took the resource that we were using internally and then started using it publicly in order to really accomplish the same goal: start to collect tickets, start to collect cases, and help our community members in resolving those issues. And so we built out things like graffiti removal or trash pickup, all of that. And what we recognized is that while the web is a great place for people to come in and start to submit tickets, while we wanted to continue to provide services over the phone and email, the mobile app really provided us a unique opportunity that we weren't able to get with those platforms. And so we started looking at opportunities to create a mobile app specific to Santa Monica, and found great partners in New Rocket in order to build that mobile app for us. And so while 311 is what we're calling our system, and that's sort of the core of what we're doing is a traditional 311, we recognize that the mobile app needed to be more than just that too. It's the core of what our mobile app is, but we weren't going to expect the community to download an app only for that purpose. And so we have a lot of things that are feeding through there, common questions and FAQs, news, and we have some pretty exciting engagements that I think Jim will be going over that we're looking at for the future as well of our mobile app. So just kind of diving into the numbers a little bit, this is the pie chart that you're seeing here is sort of since the inception of our system. And you'll see that mobile app, since we launched it, has gotten over 15,000 submissions, making up 21% of all of the submissions that we're getting across the city. It's significant in the sense that we had an old system. It was out of the box mobile app. We had no ability to customize it or to fit sort of the needs of our community. It was very limited in what we could do. And over the course of that system, maybe 4 or 5 years, we had a total of somewhere around 5,000 submissions. And since we launched this system about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago, we've already had over 15,000 submissions through mobile alone. So we're finding really high engagement in our community, which is great. Things like graffiti or potholes or those things that are out there that are really impacting the community. This has allowed us to really create a joint consensus with the community where they're able to report things that we're not always aware of or able to see. And then our team's able to go out there and really provide better services to the community by getting on those things really quickly. So just to kind of give you some sense of what we're getting a lot of, these are open cases by category or by teams. And then when we start to dive in here, you'll see we're able to close about 1,600 cases already through the 11th of May. And we're getting things like bulky items, graffiti, trash, et cetera.
Jeremy, how many of those do you have? Well, it was about 60, right? About the different categories that people could submit tickets for.
Yeah, we're up to about 60, 65, and we're always finding cool new opportunities to add things. We have I'm not sure if anybody else has seen them, but we have these little delivery robots that popped up one day in Santa Monica, and we're like, all right, we need something in order to do that. And so the system's really flexible, which is great. We're able to turn that around in, an hour or so and get that out there for people. So
Great.
And then what you're seeing here is sort of a breakdown of website versus mobile. And I think what's really interesting here is where you see how people are engaging with certain things. You'll see that graffiti removal is our most common, and mobile app really makes up a significant portion of our submissions versus web. And so what we've noticed with that is when people are walking around the community, right, and they see something like graffiti on the side of a building, they're able to open up their mobile app, take a picture right there in the mobile app, and then report it with something that they already have in their pocket. Something, like, or a bus pickup, right? If they're at the bus station and somebody misses the stop, right, they're able to really just instantaneously engage. Other things where, it's almost 100% website based is where somebody might have a concern and is in front of their desktop or something that makes more natural sense there. Bulky item, things like that. So like I said, this has really been a great tool for us. I think the flexibility for us to continue to evolve it has been great. There's no conversation that we've had with New Rocket yet where they've said, hey, that doesn't make sense in a mobile app or we can't do it. So we come to them with some pretty wild ideas, and we're excited to continue to build that out and continue to see these numbers grow for our teams.
Do you have an idea how many different service desks are you passing these tickets to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're up to about 50 or more. Let's check it out. So we do have a primary 311 team that is sort of our go-to for all the tickets. And then our fulfillment teams, let's see. Oh my gosh, it's cold. Yeah, so we're up to about 63 different teams that are actually in there closing out tickets.
Okay, so some teams will get multiple types.
Yeah, and I actually have the website in front of us so you can kind of see the types of cases that we have here. And so we've broken them down in these categories just to kind of match the taxonomy of our website. But you can kind of see the broad strokes of what we're dealing with in the system. So, something like homelessness, all the way to parking, contesting a parking citation, or help with our businesses. A big thing that was really impacted obviously during COVID. So helping people get certain permits or report issues with the process and those kinds of things. So it's really given us a lot of flexibility in what we're able to handle. And before this, all the teams were responsible for answering their own phones, their own emails. And when we rolled out this system, we were really able to consolidate everything into one. So our 311 team is able to grab a lot of those tickets before it ever makes it to somebody. And from an efficiency standpoint, it's allowed us to have 311 staff handle tickets that maybe an architect was doing before, right? And so we're spending an architect's time and money and salary dealing with things that maybe now a 311 representative can do. And so they're really spending 100% of their time on the core duties of their job, which has just been invaluable for our organization. So.
Excellent.
Great. So with that, I think I'm going to hand it over to the New Rocket team.
All right.
Hi, everyone. My name is Todd Basher. I'm a Chief Product Officer here at New Rocket, and I'm happy to start talking about how we formalized this particular solution. And definitely not going to try to sell, but I do want to clarify a few things about how this is different than ServiceNow's mobile offering, and then I'll hand it over to Jim for a demo. A little bit more about New Rocket. You may know of us from our portal work, but we are a global full service ServiceNow partner. And so we do everything on the ServiceNow platform, in addition to the mobile offering that you're going to hear about today. So let's talk more specifically about New Rocket's native mobile solution. And this is all centered around a mobile framework. Essentially, the key areas where this is different is we're trying to fill some of the gaps between these use cases like public access in a 311 situation where ServiceNow doesn't quite have the support with their native mobile offering. So for example, having complete control over the user experience. This is really important when you're trying to get a unique experience or get that fully branded experience. We're able to control that and then get that branded app into the public app store instead of just a private app store. All of the work that we're doing works seamlessly with ServiceNow. And as I'll talk about later, we can also integrate with other third-party tools. And then another significant area where we differentiate is around getting access. So not only do we support the authentication methods that ServiceNow uses, but we also support anonymous connection, anonymous interactions over a secure channel. And Jim will talk a little bit more about that, that oxymoron there where you have secure anonymous interactions. What are the great use cases? Certainly the 311 civic engagement type use case is ideal. You want a branded experience. You want the public to be able to interact with your information, with the forms, and you want to control that experience while still maintaining the app through ServiceNow and taking advantage of all the workflow goodness that you get on the ServiceNow platform. Another really good use case is around higher education and being able to engage with students, faculty, staff, parents, all in a personalized way. This is a great way to extend the mobile capability to them. We have case studies for both of these on the New Rocket website. I encourage you to check that out. And then I really want to go into more details about how we compare with ServiceNow's mobile offering. And I will say that in the vast majority of cases, we do recommend ServiceNow's native mobile offering, and we help implement that. But in these use cases like 311 in higher education, where we want to really go beyond those standard capabilities, that's where we have our framework. One is around that anonymous access. It's not just about getting information, it's about being able to support submission through anonymous channels as well. And that is a pretty prominent use case in 311 situations in retail, and we want to be able to help with that. Being able to brand the app more substantially is also a point of comparison. We have complete control over that, whereas with ServiceNow, you have certain things that you can change with the UI, with the color scheme, and that's a little bit more limited. From a deployment standpoint, ServiceNow does support the ability to deploy into a private app store, so you can control who's getting access to that. We can also get the app into the public app store branded for your organization, and that helps with adoption as well. From an implementation standpoint, because this is a custom experience, our implementation costs can be a little bit higher. But if you're really trying to push ServiceNow's native mobile solution, that could increase your implementation costs. But generally speaking, our implementation costs are going to be a little bit higher than on the ServiceNow side. So just want to make you aware of that. From an integration standpoint, we do support, of course, ServiceNow, but also direct integrations with third parties for news and other information. So that's another differentiator. From a maintenance and support standpoint, we have a maintenance subscription for our product, whereas with ServiceNow's mobile solution, that's kind of included with the ServiceNow releases. You're going to get functionality with those major upgrades. Where we get down to really key areas is around personalization. On the ServiceNow side, you're mainly controlling that through roles and user criteria. But when you're talking about more extensive personalization, using different characteristics of the user, that's where we have an advantage there, trying to customize in different ways, segment the people using it, and support different use cases through that personalization. And again, with ServiceNow, you have a set of components that are pretty good for general use cases. If you want to go beyond that, get a really ideal user experience for your particular use case, that's where we have a little bit more control over the situation. All right, so that's a comparison. We'll have some time at the end to answer questions about that. I do encourage you, we have a white paper that goes into more details in all of these areas, includes some of the case study information, but I would encourage you to grab that and learn more. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jim.
Hey, thank you. Let me grab the screen here. Are you guys seeing my phone okay? Perfect. All right, so this is going to be a demo app that we have just to kind of showcase a couple of different things. One of the things that you'll notice is that there is no need to select an instance for your ServiceNow for your customers or for the public. This is authenticating at this point directly against ServiceNow, but it will also showcase how we do this with SSO, as well as that fun term, the secure anonymous public connection. So let me go ahead and log in here. Now, one of the things you'll see, and this is just kind of, an arbitrary thing to show how we can add like training to the app if you want to be able to have some education about how to use it. These, of course, are just kind of showing some silly things just to kind of get the point across, but we can add those in at any point within the app to help with the user adoption and understanding how to utilize the app. So a couple of key things that we want to start with is how we do the processing of record producers or catalog items. This is an example for something like a citizen engagement app where they are utilizing something like Jeremy brought up for graffiti removal. So one of the things you'll notice when you're looking at this screen is at the bottom, it's got that step 1 of 3. We can have pretty much kind of any number of pages that you need to have here, and you can put them in kind of whatever order you want. And this is all controllable through ServiceNow. So this is stuff that is not needing to be configured within the mobile app, but is happening on the ServiceNow side. And of course, because we're taking advantage of native technology, we can go ahead and use the camera to go ahead and take a picture. And I'll just grab my picture of the skull here I got on my desk. I'll save that image. And we can continue on. Here we've got a map, so we can drag it to get, what is the location where this incident happened. And we can go ahead and save that. And then we've got our form. And you'll notice that the form is using native mobile processing. And I just want to say something about this because the Now Mobile solution, one of the options that they've added is native form processing as well. But in order to do that, you have to maintain a separate set of UI policies for each of your record producers, one for mobile and one for web. In our case, we're just using the one set of UI policies that are created for both. The big difference is that you need to make sure you're using the UI policy builder as opposed to scripts. But that builder is very robust, and we haven't come across a situation yet where that wasn't sufficient. If there was something that came up that couldn't be handled through the normal UI policy builder, then that could be something we could look at providing an enhancement for. But we'll just go ahead and submit this. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you can also do the attachments there, just like you would normally, either selecting files or taking pictures. And then our request is submitted, and we're back at our list. One of the other things that's kind of interesting, we'll go into kind of a test one here, is you've got the ability to have information about the forms. So you'll notice a little eye at the top right here. If I click on that, it's going to open up descriptive, and this supports the rich text formatting that is available within ServiceNow, and you can have as much detail as you need here. It can scroll, and this is also available on a per field basis. So down here at your rating, you'll see that there's also a little I for information, and again, that supports the rich text format as well.
That's a little bit of that like level 0 resolution, right? Where you can, if they get enough information from the article, they might stop entering the case.
Well, there could be that too. Yeah, you can definitely accomplish that. And also just to make sure that they really have a good understanding of what they're supposed to be doing with this as well.
Yeah.
Or what the proper use case for it is. Absolutely. Knowledge base, we can definitely browse through and go into the different knowledge base articles. One of the things that I wanted to kind of point out here that's kind of a unique issue that you have when you're dealing with a mobile client and you've got something that you want to link to that's not necessarily a knowledge base article, but maybe a web page that you need to get them to, but it's behind the secure firewall, then, we can't just do just a regular link. We have to somehow pass the security along, and we're able to do that. So this is an example of clicking a link that goes to a secure page, but it's actually loading it up in the web browser. It's able to take the credentials and pass that along. And then, of course, regular links to external websites and all that kind of stuff is, of course, supported, as well as pictures and all the other good stuff. Then one of the other things that becomes very interesting here is around push notifications. So one of the things you'll see here is that we make those persistent. So somebody can hold on to them until they want to delete it. They can just swipe if they want to delete it. But the other thing you'll notice is when you think about a push notification, they tend to be a little bit more succinct, but we can actually, as you open one up here, see that we've got a full amount of context that we can add here. And one of the reasons I find this particularly compelling is I know for myself, I get spammed all the time with emails or even text messages saying they're from my bank or something like that, and they're wanting me to log in to, do whatever. Some of those may actually be legit, but I never go through the email. I always go to my mobile banking app and check to see is that communication actually coming from the bank. And so one of the things this provides then is a very secure way for people to have trusted communication from whoever they're connected with here, so that they don't have to wonder if they're being spoofed or spammed or phished in some way. The other thing that's kind of interesting about this is, let's say you're an anonymous situation where maybe you're a city and people are not creating accounts and they're not logging in. How do you handle push notifications? Well, we can set up any number of categories that could be based on pretty much anything you want. So maybe you've got geographical regions that make up different trash routes, and people want to sign up to say, let me know if my, if there's updates about my trash pickup. We can have those in here, and even though they're not authenticated to the app, we can still give them targeted push notifications to just those folks that require it. And there'll be some other stuff I'm going to show now in a couple of the other apps. So let's go over to Santa Monica real quick. One of the things you'll notice here is that it's a completely different look and feel. So when we're talking about how we can handle this branding, this definitely gives you a very different experience than what you had on our demo app. If we go into the map view, you can see, as Jeremy is pointing out, there's a lot of activity that's happening here, and you can zoom in on these things and click on something to get the details. One of the things you'll notice is that there's a spot for an image. There's a flag in their system that says whether or not images that are supplied by the user should be available when people are viewing the incident, because obviously you could have inappropriate images come up. I think, Jeremy, your policy is just to have this turned off all the time. I don't think it's ever turned on, but they have the capability should they choose to. Now, another thing that's very interesting about this, if we think about the fact that they are anonymous and how they're using this, one of the things that we've actually been able to produce here is the ability for them to see the status of their request. And so the way we're able to do this is really one of two ways. When they submit a incident through the app, they have the option to add their email address if they want to have follow-up and so forth. And if on their profile, which is just something that's stored locally on the app, it's not actually stored on ServiceNow, if they happen to have their email or name in there and they can use these things to automatically pre-populate instant requests when they fill them in, then we can match those requests based simply on that email address. But the other thing that we can do is when they submit it is on the phone's memory, we can store the SysID of the record, so that when they come back, even if they haven't used the email or provided any kind of way to authenticate with the system, we can still know what cases they have submitted and show those so they can follow up on them. assuming they haven't deleted the app from their phone. That would potentially clear the memory of that, and they would lose access to them at that point. But it's, considering it's an anonymous connection, it's a pretty good way that we still have for following up with their cases. And then we'll look at the University of Cincinnati. Again, a very different viewpoint. And I probably made it clear, but on the city of Santa Monica, of course, that was an anonymous connection. And let me just say something about that real quick too. So how we say that it is a secure anonymous connection is that the way that mobile apps are created, they have a thing that's called a bundle identifier that is unique to any app that's out there in either the Google or the Apple app stores. And there's third-party ways that we can validate that a particular phone is using our app. And if we know they are using our app, then that allows us to then start to negotiate with them so that the API endpoints that we're working with are not just open to the world. You do have to be coming from specifically our app to have access to those endpoints, even when it's anonymous. So in this case, we have a mix of anonymous connection as well as SSO for the University of Cincinnati, in particular the Lindner Hall of or Business, College of Business, excuse me. So we've got a couple of different feeds coming in here. These are examples of third-party products that are not going through ServiceNow. You could have, a situation where maybe you need to do like a VIN lookup as you're doing something for tire repair or insurance claim or something like that, that you need to get validation. The use cases for integrating with third-party stuff is practically limitless. As long as there's an API, we can work with it. So in this case, they wanted the homepage as well as the directory and some of the links that you're seeing on the homepage to be accessible to parents and potential students before they actually had a security account. And so this is why we've got part of it anonymous and part of it secure. And so even if we go into the directory, this would be something that's actually part of their public facing side of this. And we've got options that are completely unique to what they need. We can get into all sorts of fun, either calling or emailing somebody. And on the homepage, we've got access to the campus map, videos, news links, all sorts of stuff that's all publicly accessible. Then if we authenticate, we've got the regular types of features that you would expect, form submissions, working with that, some very customized things that are unique to their situation where they've got, in this case, I think I'm in here as a professor. So this is actually my teaching schedule and, things that are just totally non-standard we can incorporate in here as well. And then finally, I'll just show an example of something we just recently put together. If any of you are planning on going to Knowledge 23, we've got an app to help you know about all of the after parties going on. And we're pretty excited about this. It's a very simple thing to just, register, sign up for. I'll show you the different days of Knowledge 23 event and the different options that are available for after parties. You can click into them. You can favorite it if you'd like to go. It's got, map access like you would normally think. How do I get to this party? It takes you to their website if you need to register. And of course, any other descriptive information that they want. There's a Twitter feed that's showing both Knowledge 23 hashtag as well as Party Now 23 hashtag. So you can see what people are up to, your favorited apps, again, notifications and information about us. So that's kind of a whirlwind tour of the different things that you can do with native mobile. And it's really open to a lot of different platforms. Currently working on something for an MSP where they need their customers to have access to kind of a custom dashboard and many others that we're looking at here to roll out in the near future. So with that, I think we'll open it up for some questions.
Jim, have you had any inquiries? Because I know a lot of times that iOS and Android are used for kiosk applications. Have you had any discussions around those?
Yeah, and that's actually a really interesting point as well, because we can take this even a step further. So kiosk is definitely a thing that has come up when we've talked about things like family services that a city or state might want to offer, and they want to try and reach out to people who might not have access to computers or to phones. So doing something like an iPad inside a kiosk, or even a compiled app, if you're doing like either a Mac or a Windows OS or even a Linux OS, we can have the same kind of, actually the same code base, just this different interface working there. Same thing as if you needed to have something that was installed, let's say on a public library situation where you needed to really lock down, and it wasn't just a web interface, but it's very specifically targeted to what you need to have available for somebody in that setting. So it's really expansive beyond just the phone capabilities if needed.
Yeah, we ran into a couple where they start an application and then they have to finish it like within. This was for a family care use case, so they're able to jump on the kiosk and finish the application and do their signatures there, and then and then go see a counselor or whatever they had to do inside of the organization. So.
Sure. Yeah, it's really wide open.
And are they? I wonder, like kiosk wise, they're probably using that more now, iOS and Android, instead of like a Windows system, right?
I couldn't tell you what the stats on that are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they're using like a secured iPad or something like that, then yeah, that would be the target. So that makes sense. We are seeing more, especially in the retail space. They're giving the associates iPads or tablets, and that's what they're using to do various things in the store. So those operating systems are definitely becoming more popular as a target.
And of course, in that scenario, things like scanning QR codes and all that is right there, items that you can also do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? You can either drop them in or come off mute. All right, I think we're good then. I'm going to share something real quick, and then if there are any more questions that come up, I'll let you guys know. The only other piece I wanted to put on here, just we always go over what we're doing in the next few weeks. So I'm going to cover that real quick. And yeah, so that's kind of how we fill the mobile gap right there for the public services part of it. And more and more that's been coming up. A lot of times these mobile projects start in their own little place, and they develop their own system of record and their own applications. So to have it backed by a powerful platform like ServiceNow that scales as they need it is a big benefit that a lot of people are starting to realize. So the next few weeks, we're going to have Martin. He's going to bring up a CIO that he's been working with over to talk about how he's used ServiceNow platform for digital transformation. I think it his last 2 organizations or 3 organizations. So we'll talk specifically about that and how he sees ServiceNow being a player in that area. And then we're going to redo a segment we did a couple weeks ago because we don't have the recording. And that was my fault. We're struggling with this registration process and recording process. We had about 100 people on that call for William, but I wasn't able to get the recording out, and a bunch of people asked me for that. So we're going to rerun that segment about business architecture. And yeah, William said he could join us on that day. And then on the 22nd, we're still looking for a sponsor for this one because I'm not an expert in this area. So somebody to lead. If anybody has done a lot of work around release governance, that's been coming up quite a bit on the calls, people asking questions about that particular area. And what I mean by that is not doing demand intake or ideas or anything like that, but after the demand is done through development, how does that release get packaged and then put onto a ServiceNow platform? And that's what a lot of people are specifically asking about that area. I know a lot of times we focused on demand and demand iteration. So this is specifically asking to go after the demand. Arun will talk about some of the things on service catalog flows, and then Surjit, there's another one of on our team, connected devices. So he's specifically in medical, but I think we can make this general. So any connected devices will be a topic there. And then we're getting back a little bit on the governance and operating models, some iterations that Brad's worked on here to improve on that. We ran this back in June. We talked about governance, but this will be an extension to what we talked about in June, to some of the things that we're doing with our more recent customers. If you have any more topics, you can either drop them in chat, drop me an email, or put them on the community, and we'll pick them up there.